Last season ended in the land of the North, so fittingly, we flip everything upside down by kicking Season 2 off in the land down under. But as tough as motorsport was, Bathurst is likely to be even harder. Who will come out on top at this Australian Classic? We'll find out soon as we get ready to watch Round 1 of the Lotus 49 Grand Prix Legends Series. And you'll see it all live here on the Global Sim Racing channel. Hi, I'm Joe Peak, and with me in the booth is Jake Sperry. Behind the scenes is our director, Robert O'Brien, and he's using cameras provided by Dougie Beard. If you're a race fan who hasn't heard of Bathurst yet, you're in for a treat. Let's introduce everyone to this almost cartoonishly outlandish street course. Welcome to Mount Panorama Circuit. Most drivers simply refer to this place as Bathurst, with it being located just to the southwest of the city's major hub. But most ominously, and perhaps appropriately, it's been nicknamed the Mountain. With more than 500 feet of elevation change over the course of a lap, it's easy to understand why. Though originally built for racing, it's become a street circuit over time, with the track itself used for regular traffic and featuring residential housing all along the roads. This makes this 4-mile, 23-turn course incredibly unique in the world of racing. In the past, the track has hosted a variety of types of cars, including open-wheelers. But modern safety standards means that most competitive racing has now been limited to sports cars and touring cars. However, the dangers are very real due to the incredibly high speeds and lack of runoff throughout much of the circuit. The quickest parts are the run up the mountain straight towards Griffin's Bend, and then the flat-out blast back down the Conrad Straight and into the chase. This chicane was added in the late 80s to break up the run down to Murray's Corner. But while most chicanes are derided for ruining the character of a track, the terrifying speed as you approach it and the general difficulty make it fit right in with Bathurst challenges. However, the toughest portions are undoubtedly along the mountain itself, with notorious corners like the Cutting, Brock's Skyline, the Dipper, and Forest's Elbow. In fact, one of the more unique worries of this course is that all of these parts are so narrow that track blockages due to wrecks are not uncommon in the first few laps. The Australian fans often line the fences and hillsides to witness the daredevil spectacle of drivers trying to claim King of the Mountain. You can't blame them with how rare of a sight a track like Bathurst is today. Well, Jake, if there's one thing you could say about the Lotus 49 community, they are not shy of a challenge. To start things off at this track is quite the task.
It certainly is. Look, 23 turns, 4 miles, 6.213 kilometers. And this is the sort of place where it does not do it justice, the way that you drive around this place. There is so much elevation change, and there is so much of a throwback feel to this circuit. When you're dancing down the mountain, through the S's, the Dipper, all the way to the Forest's Elbow, you are on the very limit of what the machine can handle, and there is no margin of error to go along with that too. So you are pretty much on the very, very edge of your seat everywhere, and that includes that run down to the fabled Chase, the fastest corner in Australian sim racing.
Yeah, breaking down into there is going to be difficult in these cars, to say the least. But let's take a look at how the championship wound up last time. Togo Hisada with the win in the end, and Ove Trangerade was behind him just by a few points. Tixier, because of his early wreck, unfortunately, that actually sent him to third, even though he was fighting for the championship. And then Martin Granberg wound up in fourth over Teemu Vaskilampi. But Hisada becoming champion for the first time in his Lotus 49 career is something special. But he said he has university to worry about this season, so not sure if we'll see him try to defend that crown. Let's take a look at the F2 championship now, Jake.
Absolutely, and that was won by Matthew Maudsley, 354 points, and a close championship in the end, just 14 points ahead of Marco Antonio Lopez, with Jorge Nieva finishing off in third. So a really tight championship, exactly what we like to see. Rolly Wallbank there in fourth position, leading then the next to the charge, and Gary Ho in fifth place, meaning that if everyone's going to be knocking around the door of 300 points plus, it should be another close championship.
Yeah, especially for that F2. That's a lot of points for them to rack up. As we look at the Cup of Nations now, Finland surprisingly still came out ahead, despite towards the end was them not really seeing too many wins. United Kingdom was second behind them, and the U.S. managed to shoot themselves up into third past Japan, who were a single point ahead of Singapore. Very tight race between Japan and Singapore, with Tixier and Hisada really carrying that. But what about today's race? What are we in store for, Jake?
Well, this is the opening round of the championship. It's a 12-round season overall in terms of how points stack up. For the iRacing side, it's best 8 of 12. A little bit different when it comes to Grand Prix Legends, but it is 17 laps worth of racing. So that is up and down the mountain 17 different times. And the thing you have to remember about this is that this is probably one of the toughest challenges that you'll find out there. Tough car, tough track, open setup. And here's the big one. You don't get a spare car. This is an official series. No spare car. If you break it, you bought it. And if there's any track where no spare car comes into play, a field of 39 drivers here today, well, I am probably banking on maybe 25 finishers only today.
That sounds about right to me. If anything, maybe potentially a bit generous. We'll see who can get to the end. So let's hope that we don't have any issues early on, because it can cause a major stack up. And you can see the weather out here today is actually pretty decent. Not very hot out there, so drivers aren't going to be dealing with greasy conditions at a track where you don't want to be sliding around too much anyways. As we watch Togo Hisada work his way down the hill. So he has come back for today at least, and is going to try to pick up where he left off. And that was a nice exit out of Forest Elbow. Now watch how much speed these cars pick up, because everybody thinks these older cars are slow, Jake, but in a straight line, they are not.
Oh, absolutely not. These have some amazing engine power in them, and look at them. Over 310 kilometers an hour moving in towards the chase. The thing that makes these cars a little bit difficult to drive is that they don't have aerodynamics on them, so they're very tough to try and wheel through the corners. You only have mechanical grip. And the other thing you have to remember is you've got brakes effectively made of cheese, so it's going to be very tough to try and get yourself through and make sure you get yourself stopped. First lap in, that's a 2-minute .926. For comparison, you put, say, the V8s around here, the supercars, you're looking at times of around 202, 203. So it's ever so slightly quicker, and 4/10 clear of Jordan Gronkowski in second.
Sebastian Tixier now moves himself ahead of Jordan, about 4/10 off Hisada, who looks like he has got a handle on this place compared to everybody else. But we're still waiting on Ove Trangray to set a time, but it looks like he's only going to get one lap in, I believe. Anybody who took off a little bit late is unfortunately going to run out, just because it does take so long to get around here. Hisada already back up the hill, out of the cutting and towards the various parks across the top of the track. Here's Tixier, as we mentioned, about 4/10 off, and Tixier spins it in the cutting, which means his second lap is definitely not going to be an improvement, but it looks like he'll carry on regardless.
It's so inviting up there at the cutting. It's a turn and brake, a small kink left of 3 into the cutting of 4, and effectively you're trying to run as close to that inside wall as you can, drive up the hill over this section. Now here is Gronk down the hill, trying to give himself as much as he can, going through the dipper and now through this S's section. He knows how important it is to get yourself on the binders early into the Forest Elbow. It's downhill all the way through the corner and so easy for you to spin out as you go through. 28 drivers have set a time so far out there. I'm still expecting a number of drives to improve. Ove Trangray has just gone 5th fastest. He's 0.8 of a second off the pace, but this is just about what I'd expect from a lot of these drivers in terms of putting a time on the board and trying to make it stick.
Yeah, watching others, looks like Sebastian Schmidt unfortunately had his one lap deleted. He doesn't have enough time to get around for the second one. This is Gronkowski as the 11 comes around Murray's. Let's see if this is going to be a better time. It looks like an improvement on not my timing sheet. And yes, a 2:06. That's going to put him on pole.
Oh, I'm very nearly caught in the Amy, stealing it away. 19 thousandths of a second, 18 thousandths by our timing tower. Getting there, but times are allowed to come in here on the board right up until the 8-minute clock comes in. Tomasz Kozstron goes 5th fastest, and a 2:01.3 from Jim Shedlick puts him up into P5. There's Ryan G. Walker, our good friend here at the Global Sim Racing channel. He goes 12th fastest. That's a good qualifying from him.
Yeah, it's very well done. And looks like he's not going to take that second lap since he knows the time is up. This is Matt Wright running at a home track here today. And his first lap was a 2:03.393. That's good enough for 18th, so just about smack dab in the middle of the pack. And I can report that Hisada looks like he did not take a second lap, so he is done here for his qualifying. As Matt Wright comes out of Maurice, 2:03.3 becomes a 2:02.9. That'll jump him up to 15th, so minor improvement. And behind him, looks like we got only one more driver able to set a lap. That's going to be Ove Trangrade. So he is going to get 2 in, but it's a bit surprised he got back around in time.
Well, he's timed it very well. He left himself about 15 seconds on the clock here as he moves through Murray's corner. Drive as quickly as you can to the line. It's a short run to the line and a 2:01.287 there, Joe. That's good enough for the second row of the grid. You want to be in the front 2 rows of the grid around this place. Otherwise, you're going to be in trouble trying to make passes.
Absolutely. And before we get to the grid, we want to mention the channel's sponsor, Majors Garage, home of free Baseline Plus setups. Get help from any of the garage coaches 24/7. Sign up now for awesome, affordable monthly subscriptions, telemetry, coaching, and more by simply clicking on our link in the description below. Also, if you use our special discount code MajorsGSRC, you'll get 10% off. As we now take a look at that starting grid, Gronkowski on the pole over Topi Kortaniemi, one of our contenders last season. You saw him top 5 in the points. He'll start second. Hisada, 3rd place. What can he do from there? He'll have Trangrade to his outside. Sebastian Tixier, only good enough for 5th today as Jim Shedlick. Haven't seen his face in a while. He'll start from the outside of row 3. Tomas Kozdraan starts in 7th. Xavier Sanchez, P8. Then in row 5, it's Richard Yolland and Gary Quellen.
Row 6 then we'll have Miro Hrajki and Ryan G. Walker there with John Olsen and Bill Tyler on row 7. Row 8 will house Matt Wright and Laust Olsen, different spelling of Olsen, with Jorge Nieva and Gary Ho on row 9. They fought for the F2 Championship last season. Bruce Nelson starts 19th and the World Kinduchi Robert Plumley's 20th.
Emmanuel Pereira starts in 21st. It's Jana Lehman in 22nd. Next row has Nolan Smith to the inside, Michael Grissinger to the outside. It's Glenn Becker starting P25. Marco Salgado, one of our F2 championship contenders last time, starts 26th. Matthew Maudsley, F2 champion, starts 27th. You've got Dave Cohen in 28th, Tobias Harnvey in 29th, and Damian Rickley in 30th.
And very quickly, down the final page, Cam Porter, the last driver to set a time. So Sebastian Schmidt, Eugenio Massa, Andrew Eng, Ben Summers, Andre Juteau and co. Well, they all start by their iRacing.
You can see they're just about all gridded up here. And actually, it looks like everybody has now gridded up. So the engines begin to rev as the lights come up for round 1. And the green flag is out off the line. Gronkowski is horrible off of it. He's already getting beat down to the first corner by Topi Kortaniemi, and he chops down to the apex in the lead before they even get to turn 1. And behind them, I'm watching to see how the rest of the field comes through. That 90-degree left-hander can sometimes cause problems, but no such luck this time.
It wasn't a case of Gronkowski's start was bad. It was just a case of Kortaniemi's start was so good. He absolutely got himself about 5 car lengths on the cars in front. So they run up then through the second corner out on this incredible circuit. A bit of too wide, a little bit further back with Matt Wright and co. And there's actually Matt Wright's in the wall.
Oof, yeah, he is falling down very quickly, thankfully off the racing line, so everybody's able to get around him. He's going to have to wait for the entire field to get through. Nobody else with issues through Griffin's Bend, so it looks like only Matt Wright, unfortunately, winding up in the barriers. And now the 19 in the cutting has gone off.
Yeah, that's not good at all. That is Sebastian Schmidt, who was starting from the back of the field. So we'll catch this then on the Global Sim Racing channel replay, see exactly how it all came about. So this is going through the opening section of road. There's the spun right there to the inside of the circuit, but it's up the hill into the cutting. You go through this left, and then it's already happened already, and the 20 as well getting involved as well. That's Cam Porter, nowhere to go, upside down, and a heavy accident. Thank goodness it's sim racing.
Thank goodness nobody else really got tangled up in that. It was towards the back end of the field, so most everybody kept a heads up as we got a battle for the lead. Gronkowski trying to get it back from Kortaniemi, and he slipstreams past him, but Kortaniemi 2 wheels in the grass. Can he get the car woed up? It looks like he can. Both of them shoot wide. Now we've got Hisada as another car in the background. That looks like Shedlick, who was off the course. So Hisada trying to get the lead away from Gronkowski, but somehow he retains that top spot that he snatches back. Here comes Kortaniemi. The battle is not over. Down at a hell corner. He's got the inside. Outbreaks him down into the first turn, and cutting back through, Hisada tries to out-accelerate him.
Absolutely great battling. It was Cosdron off in the background. Look at it. Which way do you go? Do you go left? Do you go right? Middle of the road driving by one. Mr. Topi Kortaniemi is doing enough to keep Togo Hisada behind. He doesn't want to play these games on lap 2 as the reigning champion. He will happily sit and wait for better opportunities to come. Some great side-by-side behind, though, as Cosdron through on Tiksha, and what a train it is with Quellin and Shedlick and Sanchez in Yorland and Walker on the back of it as well. Some incredible work going up the mountain.
Oh, and we got a spin. No. That's going to be Cosdron who goes around, and now multiple cars are starting to spin. Cosdron takes a tow, and I think Frasky was involved. He is parked at the side of the track, tangled up, I believe, with John Olsen. So this is Cosdron, who was not the first, I don't think. No, he was the first. Excuse me. He spun in front, and the 12 is going to find himself parked in the wall, so he couldn't go anywhere.
Yeah, and then Olsen slowing up for the incident, and Hrasky effectively has nowhere to go in the crash. So some dramas coming through at the early stages, but you can see it here. Cosdron stuck on the outside. He's there on that unrubbered line, that dirty line out there. Track conditions carry over from the qualifying session, and I think he's just got out on the marbles there, and he's just lost the rear end.
Offline in these cars is not easy to handle, and unfortunately, he found that out the hard way. So we've had a few already DNFs at this stage on lap 2, which is becoming lap 3 pretty quickly, because there's our leaders with Jordan in the 11 heading around Maurice. And then look at the train battling for second. It's Kortaniemi, Hisada, and Trangarade.
And very much the right time to get a gap. 2:01.5, fastest lap of the race, and 1 second. The margin then up at the front of this field. So they're going to have to work hard. Here's a bit of side-by-side, though, down in towards turn number 1. That's Richard Yorland fighting out with Xavier Sanchez and Ryan Walker. This the fight for 7th, 8th, and 9th on the road as they run up the mountain straight. This is going to be the tougher of the 2 straights to make the pass on as they run under the Pedders Bridge and move all the way to that very tough turn 2. It's more inviting to go for it at the chase, but you have an entire mountain to sit behind and wait and just ponder how you make a move.
Riding with Ryan now, coming up into the cutting, watching both of them. Not going to go off into the marbles for him. Ooh, and a little bit of a slip up there from Sanchez as the car wiggles back and forth, trying to get the power down. Climbing up the hill, continuing over crest, blind corners here now. Look at how swift it is through the various parks.
Oh, absolutely. And as you come up over the hill, through the metal grate, into McPhillamy, and you find Peter Brock's skyline, the 9-time Bathurst 1000 champion, you descend down the hill, and this is where you have the opportunity. Look at the car in front, just trying to grab 2, 3 different times through the corner. That is just how tough this place can be, and how much you are dancing on a knife's edge. And you can see that really shallow line really does work actually here through the through the forest elbow, because when you get down the hill, you really do have chances, and the track's always going to fall away from you regardless.
As they pick up speed once again, yeah, Sanchez, I'm surprised with how shallow that line was, that he was able to get as good of a launch as he did. But under braking, Walker looks pretty mighty there in that number 6. He gains up a bit of time. Still about half a second back. He'll have to get closer than that.
Absolutely will. And this is not going to be easy to make these moves, because you've got a car effectively that looks a bit like a shoebox. You're trying to go through. Togo Hisada, by the way, fastest lap of the race as he tries to give chase to Kortaniemi out there at the moment. Kortaniemi himself pulling a 10th back on Gronkowski, who leads this race. But One thing that I think's very, very telling about trying to make a pass here is that you've got all this speed, but you also need the room. And this is not the easiest circuit to find the room to make a pass. We saw it with Courtniemi earlier on, how he had himself just running the middle of the road, and that was enough to cover the pass. This isn't going to be the sort of place where it's easy to make overtakes. You've got an entire mountain to go over first. That's something we definitely say. But even on the straights, you run middle of the road, you're going to be very difficult to pass.
Absolutely, and I've seen a number of spins. I believe Harvey has gone around, but we don't need to go to that right now. And he gets it going and finds himself sent down to 18th as we ride on board with second place, Courtniemi.
Oh, and look how close they're getting to the walls here. Topi Courtniemi diving down the hill. You have got to be so careful here with the open and exposed suspension as you go through. It is so easy just to drop off and make a small mistake, and they can see that Ford-Cosworth engine, probably one of the most famous engines out there in all of motorsport, and you can see just how much the suspension is really flexing up and down over the bumps. Use that little bit of road, moving through this incredible run through the chase, and it's all about precision. And behind, Trengare's just gone off.
He's able to get it back on. Looks like not a serious drama for him, but that will lose him time to about 2 seconds up to that battle for P2. And behind him, Tixier is trying to play catch up as well. There you see Sebastian now within about a second and a half of the Norwegian because of that mistake. He's been in no man's land for some time now. It's stretched out in much of the field. You predicted about 25 finishers. We're down to 25 already.
Well, I guess I've been a bit conservative, haven't I? But at least at this point, we got drivers knowing that this only gets easier in terms of a big grid race when there are less drivers here. This is a very unforgiving mistress of a circuit that does not forgive and does not forget and does not care what your name is. As we can see, car spun around. Oh, that's an awkward place there for Tobias Harnvey. And he has once again got to bring that around. And we'll see this on the Global Sim Racing Channel replay. Just what makes this track so difficult. You can see Harnvey trying to put the power down, rears just trying to work with, and then all of a sudden you just hit that limit of grip, slam it into the wall, and that is going to be a shame for the 28 because his day is pretty much teed and totaled.
Yep, he's taken it into pit lane as the 30s had an issue. That's Massa. He was slow down the mountain straight. And I'm not sure if he actually had an issue.
There's damage on the front. I mean, you can see it right there, Joe. You can see just all that scraping there on the front. So whatever's happened to Eugenio.
Well, that's Rickley. That's Damien.
Oh, sorry, that is Rickley.
Yeah, that's a 35. And I'm trying to see if that's recent. And I'm not seeing any incidents here within the last lap that I can find. So he must have had that early and has been limping that thing along, which is honestly impressive. Straight line speed's not going to be great, but it looks like the suspension is good enough that he's able to at least keep it within the walls as we come back to Sanchez now here in 8th position. They've dropped Ryan Walker in the meantime, and it's become a two-way fight between himself and Yolland.
Well, that's what you want around this place. You just want a simple fight, 1 versus 1. Makes overtakes a lot easier here as we move on to lap 6 of the race. And you're just hoping that when you get a battle, it is just going to be easy, and you have the room and you have the elements out there to go and make something happen. It becomes a lot tougher when you got to deal with 2 people, 3 people, 4 people. And this is also the sort of track with the 2 long straights here, Joe, that leads to just draft style races and leads to packs forming, and it can be very, very difficult to be out there racing with 2, 3, 4 cars at the same time.
Absolutely, and we've already seen that slipstream, you wouldn't think with the shape of these cars that they'd have such a big effect, but it's the back with that engine that you mentioned doesn't have the greatest of aerodynamics on it, and so they will create an immense hole behind them at top speeds. Meanwhile, as they fly up and towards the various left-handers, eventually culminating in McPhillamy, this is where it looks like Richard Yolland has this one down. He is pulling away to about 0.8 of a second.
Well, if you've got the confidence, you might as well go out there and use it. And if you can just keep yourself through the middle to high-speed corners, that's what legendary drivers like Graham Hill and Jim Clark were able to do so well. It was carry the momentum through the middling speed corners when you know that you don't have any aerodynamic grip. You're relying on just the mechanical grip of the car. And if you can just hit that limit and just play with it at 99%, you have got yourself the ability to go out there and set some mega lap times. All the confidence comes from the mid-speed corners.
And I'm looking to see who's had the confidence to stay out of trouble. And right now, our biggest mover, I think, is Timothy Porter, up 19 positions in the number 39. So great job to him as he comes over Skyline himself, the Canadian. Just basically trying to run the rest of this race, I imagine, because nobody is around him right now, and it's all more a matter of staying out of trouble. Meanwhile, I think Cohen and Maudsley just had a bit of a battle for 15th. And I'm not sure if that was a pass, but Cohen is able to stay ahead in that number 34, and he is also up a number of spots, 13 gained.
Well, Maudsley himself is up 11, and it just goes to show you that if you can keep it out of trouble in this series, you have a great chance of scoring results. And I wouldn't put it past someone like Matthew Maudsley, who won the F2 championship last season, that this is the sort of way he went about it. Just pick up the finishes. Yorland here has lost the place to Xavier Sanchez. So just like that, up the mountain straight. He was 0.8 of a second clear a lap ago. Now he's behind.
All right, so here's the move. Not really the biggest of slip-ups there. It looks like just a better run off the corner for Sanchez. He's going to look to the inside. Yallin's not going to fight it. He lets him have the space, and they do get very light over that crest, I can tell you. And under braking, there he goes. Job done.
You know, they get so light over that section of road, Joe. I'm not surprised if they hang up those Lotus 49s as windsocks sometimes when their life of work has been done here in iRacing. But down the hill, these two go. They're having a great scrap. Scrap's still going on, by the way, for the top three. And what I've noticed quite a bit is that Topi Courtaniemi's car is so squirrely up the mountain as mistake half of the tyres off the road for Gronkowski. He plants it in the middle of the road, completely neutering Courtaniemi's run, and suddenly we bottleneck up again.
Asada's back in it. Remember, he was missing out a little bit earlier and has regained. So that slipstream definitely helping the Japanese driver. Let's see who gets a better launch coming out of Hell Corner and up the mountain straight. That's looking pretty decent for Courtaniemi as he gets back into the tow. And Richard Yallin seems to have had a problem. I see him stopped on the track, but we'll go to that in a second. This might erupt once again over the leap and braking hard now into Griffin's Bend. Not quite there.
Not quite there. The issue that Yorland had is he grabbed the grass coming into Murray. So a big spin and a big bite going through. And look at how much you have to counter steer and correct every time you go through. It's like having to almost micro steer 4 or 5 different slides that could bring the car out at any point. And Hasada, the reigning champion, you can see on the back of this train. It's looking good. Let's take a look at the Global Sim Racing Channel replay, though. See exactly where it went wrong. That was the back end of it. But you're going to see it's the minutest blade of grass that has sent that massive thick rear tyre around. Or not even.
No, I think he just locked up the rears. Wow. Yeah, 17. And thankfully, despite bounding over the grass, comes to a halt before he goes right back on the racing line. Now, everybody has to go by before he finds a gap. And eventually, he gets moving in 12th position. But a top 10 slips through his fingers as we come back down the hill.
Oh, we have a great chance here, Joe, as they come back down the hill. I don't think we'll see a move this time. I think drivers are very happy just to sit and play the patience game here today. And they know how long of a race this is. They've got traffic just in front. That's Robert Reynolds. And they're going to have to squeeze through. And Gronkowski getting really close to those rear tyres. And basically everyone finds a way through. But this is going to be a very awkward race for these front three because they know for all of them staying in a line, they can't actually really battle at this point. They've only got 3.5 seconds to Trengarade and then a further 2 to Tixier and Shedlick. So the position they're in, Joe, is We'd like to fight. We'd like to go side by side, but it's too early in the race to really do that here, lap 9 of 17, even though we're over halfway.
Yeah, Trangrades could so easily catch up to them if they start to battle with only those 3 seconds to make up. And, of course, I think, honestly, Tixier even could maybe join in on them, and that could make it a 5-car fight for the lead here at Bathurst as they head up towards the cutting, raking hard into here. Question is, though, if Courtenay does feel like he's faster, at some point, does he try and make a move if he feels like he's got a high percentage one on the cards? And they're just about, in fact, yes, they are past halfway now in the race. So they're on the downward slope of the proverbial hill here, and wonder if that will maybe motivate him to try a few things.
Well, I'm just looking at him, and you can see it's just a couple of little turns here and there. He's got a car that's a lot looser through the corners. Another little slide going through the section from Skyline down to the Dipper. And every time you see Courteniemi, he's got a car that wants to respond to him. And this is one of the things that Finnish drivers are a lot better than other drivers. Out there as Hasada gets a huge wiggle coming out of the Forest elbow, and that will cost him the run to the group, and he'll become the bridge between the divides. But the one thing that you see from Finnish drivers, which makes them a little bit more reactive than other drivers out there, is that legally in their driving test, Joe, they have to learn how to do a Scandi.
Unfortunately for Hasada, he damaged his suspension with that touch with the wall. Oh, and in front of him, off goes Trangrade. Trangrade's going to lose a spot to Tixier. So here's the incident with Hasada. He just clipped it. He must have hit that just right, because like you said, it didn't even look like much, but it was the right rear, and here it is.
Oh, that's nothing. That is nothing. And I think Togo Hasada here, it must be incredibly hard done by, but it shows you the fine margins of Mount Panorama. You're an inch offline, and bang, your race is done.
Just bent it enough that it could not track straight, and you can see the trouble that he was having from there. We're gonna watch the right rear, see if we can watch it bend as he comes around Forest elbow. You can see how much that suspension has to move and do all this
change
work.
For the lead. So in all of that, there's the hit. It's the smallest bit of movement back in, but whilst all that was happening, there was an incredible bit of side-by-side as Courteniemi actually got himself through on Gronkowski on the front stretch, and then very nearly put Gronkowski in the wall up at the second corner.
Yeah, interlocking wheels. Here's the second part. He's already in the lead with that great pass into hell corner. Look at how close they're going to get. Oh!
How that is not a car flipping up the mountain right now, I have no idea. Here's Courteniemi's view of it. You're going to see here, moving on through. Look, they even got air! Got air moving on forward, and you can see here, moving in, slow it down, and that, how is there not contact front to rear? You cannot put a sheet of paper in between those two.
That camera was so close you could count the freckles on Jordan for a moment there as they came up and into Griffin's Bend. Somehow it winds up with both of them carrying on, and they have now dropped everybody else because of Hasada's problems. So it is a 2-car fight. Gronkowski is still with it, and he's lost the pole that he started with. Ooh, look at Tixier now. Trangrade, even though he has fallen back a little bit, he's not given up the ghost, and this means that Shedlick gets another breath of life into his race.
Absolutely, and just to make this race even more difficult, instant point 17 before a drive-through, 25 before disqualification, as is with all iRacing official series. But you've got to have eyes then on Sebastian Tixier in third. He's having to be defensive at this point with Trangrade, with Shedlick. Shedlick with the number 1 on his car. He's got the highest I rating of anybody else in this field, and he knows that this is not going to be a race for the faint of heart. He knows that he's played the patience game so far, and sitting on the back of this 3-car train, if he can just keep it out of trouble, he'll just hope that the 2 cars in front, Trangrade and Tixier, start to tangle.
So right on board with him. A 5,500 I rating for Jim from Club Carolina. As I said, we've seen him before, but it's been quite some time. And clearly he's found that the competition has increased since he last was here. That was a little bit of a slide off the apex there from Schrangrade. They're going to go by the lapped car of Ben Summers, who does a great job finding a spot to pull out of the way down through the S's. And out of the dipper, under threat, Tixier is still being hounded by Schrangrade. In fact, Schrangrade almost taking a poke down into Forrest's elbow. Not usually a place to pass, and that still sets him up fantastically as he's got a huge slipstream down Conrad.
That's just how aggressive you need to be. Pulls over left-hand side as we take a look from his rear view as he tries to find a way through. Tixier is just sliding around. Oh, he pushes the door shut on Ove Schrangrade at the fastest corner of Australian sim racing. Does he get it slowed up, though? No, he has a huge slide, and suddenly Schrangrade tries to go around the outside. He can't quite get the power down on that outer parabola as he tries to work a way forward. This is some incredible stuff. Shedlick has got the best seat in the house.
And he tries to cut back underneath. Looks like he gets a good launch. He's going to be able to get side by side, maybe. And under braking, great stuff from Ove Schrangrade, who is going to deny him both of them, leaning the tail of the car out through Hell Corner. And Schrangrade now has lost touch with Tixier a little bit. He's going to have to regroup and run him back down.
Joe, that might have just been the greatest battle for no position changes I think I've ever seen.
Everybody is really going 10-10 amongst them, and once again, there you can see the level to which everybody is racing. Yeah, not just one of the best battles with no position change, one of the best battles for third that I've seen in some time. This is for the last step on the podium.
Absolutely it is, and you're just starting to sense, oh no, there you go, and just like that, the battle for third ends for Jim Shedlick, and it ends hard into the walls up the mountain.
Let's take a look at the replay on this one. Did he go a little bit too wide? Yep, he did. And open wheel cars touching the wall just doesn't quite have the same effects as something with fenders. And that was day done in the flash of an eye.
That would have been day done even if you did have a fender. That is such a tough pit of track. You try and get aggressive, take as much. I think he's just trying to correct a slide after hitting the inside curb there at turn number 6 through the Griffin's Mount. And then by the time he's gathered the car back up again, he's in the wall. And this is what makes this track unforgiving and why it is said over and over again, Joe, stay off the curbs.
Whew. Well, we are at, Schrangrade is going to cut through. That's, what, about the third or fourth time we've seen him off through the chase, and Tixier will be able to streak away from him with that one. Let's take one more look at it. He's on the attack. I wonder if he just did not anticipate the extra speed. Well, he's offline. That'll certainly do it as they come up into the braking. Actually has a nose ahead. And, well, there you go again. Too much curb. Tixier 2 wheels off as well.
Wow, that just shows you the margins that they're trying to go for. So, Ove Schrangrade, he did the right thing. He got the position. He forced Tixier 2 tires in the grass. And then, effectively, he just saw him having a moment and went, oh, that's nice, and just continued on. And suddenly, the gap's 1.5 seconds. And that's not good, but Gronkowski is really struggling. That last lap, he lost about 4 seconds, and it looks like the car, he's hit the wall at the final corner.
I'm gonna call some shenanigans here. Jim Shedlick is still going. How is that car still running?
I believe with grit and determination of the Garagista spirit.
Especially after what we saw happen to Togo with the tiniest of touches, and he was bouncing off the wall here was Jim. And yet that last lap, that looks competitive. A 2:01.4 for Shedlick. How is that possible?
How do I put this? It works in funny ways. I believe all of the hits he's had of some... You know what it's like when you're trying to make the perfect sandwich and you try and cut a little bit off and you realize, oh, it's a bit too much. You cut the other bit off and, oh, it's not quite right. I think he's gone and cut sides off of his car and somehow it's pointing straight.
It is a pretty straight wheel. It does look like he's having to correct it a little bit. Boy, he's a brave man, that's for sure. That number 1 is going to try and finish this race come hell or high water. And looking at the lap time here, yeah, I'm seeing about maybe a second and a half off of his regular time. So he has dropped a little bit of pace, but comparatively, that's not bad. Oh, big slide coming out of Murray's. And this one, a 2:02.9. So apologies, I was looking at the wrong lap time for his last one. This one, yeah, 2:02.9. So a little bit slower, but really not outrageous as we head back up to Ove Trangaré, who is about 0.9 of a second behind Tixier because of his most recent off, but has been trying to catch back up. And I think he's got the pace. Last lap, 2:01.3. Yeah, 2:01.8. So half a second quicker than Sebastian.
And both of them half a second to a second quicker than Jordan Gronkowski, who had that off at Murray's corner, which dropped him out of the battle for the race lead. So they're starting to close up, but Old Father Time might run themselves out of time if they're not too careful. Something to keep an eye out on in the final laps. I do want to point out as well that Jim Shedlick is running quicker than the driver behind him, Xavier Sanchez, and Sanchez just did 2 back-to-back 2:03.006s.
So probably on pace, not thinking that that's severe damage. Actually, I'm going to check on Sanchez. Yeah, car looks clean. So probably has a whole machine, as there you can see the time comparison. But, of course, that doesn't bar the fact that maybe there could be some suspension damage that we don't see, but I highly doubt that with how consistent he's running. Just heard a call of frustration from Grissinger.
Yeah, it's at the cutting, and he's upside down. And no wonder he's got a call of frustration. He must have a very big headache.
Oh, yeah. Don Peak had a bit of a spin in front of him into the corner. We've gone a little far back here as this heads into the cutting. So a little ways up the road. Don had already had an accident earlier in the race. Had just come back out. I think the car wasn't quite 100%. And I think he was trying to be polite here and let him by.
Oh no.
Out of nowhere. Couldn't even see it from the left-hand side camera. Just suddenly bounced into him, and that would end both their races as Don has once again gone back and parked it. We've had a number of drivers. He's not alone. So many have gone out that a bunch have been attempting to try and recover and see if they can pick some spots off. But as you can see, that doesn't always go as planned. Meanwhile, this is the 29, I think we're looking at.
Well, it's 25. It's Emmanuel Pereira out there, and he's in a scrap here with Bruce Snelson. This is the fight for 11th place on the road. These two just been quietly going about their races. They're up 10 and 7 spots respectively at this point in time. Bruce here wants to give himself a really good chance to attack Club Northwest up the hill, through the right, then a turn 2. Trying to get that power down as early as possible always helps. And not quite in a position just yet, but there's still a couple laps to go. This is where you get that twitchy foot when you're in a battle.
And getting a little bit of suspension damage from what I can see on the front left of that car. So Pereira is struggling. Bruce Nelson, in the meantime, just trying to play patient, up 7 from where he began this race, but he's only got 2 laps left next time they cross the line. We head to Bill Tyler. Now, he was one that tended to just kind of pick up spots as he went. He's only up 6 this time. Started this race from 14th, which is a little far down even for Bill. That's just been such a big field and so competitive today. But he's made good on it. And right ahead of him is Ryan Walker, currently in that blue number 6. And here's the 2 to go for them as they approach the final corner. Now, who's that? Is that lap traffic in front?
Yes, that's Eugenio Massa.
And he's got a good chance to let them by. Yeah, right here. So we'll see if he pulls off to the side. He's not racing anybody. Yep, there we go. Great sportsmanship. We tend to expect that from the drivers in this series, and Massa is a regular.
He certainly is, and pulling off to the side, allowing these drivers a chance to attack and go forward. 3/10 there from Bill Tyler that last lap, Joe, to pull the gap in within a second for the first time. And Ryan Walker's raced a number of races in a number of different categories, but this is where it's going to be pressure telling the most when you see in the bottom right corner of your relative, the driver behind is closing. You're always in a point of concern. You're always looking behind, and the last thing you want, especially with how circular and how very difficult they are to stare out of in these machines, it's definitely not what you want to watch in the rearview mirror, is a car behind you close up.
Yeah, no vision problems on this thing. He could definitely see him in those mirrors and knows that he is coming. As we're not missing anything up at the front, by the way. Jumping around here to Ove Trangrate. Ooh, he might have a chance at the podium once again, despite multiple offs today. And he closed in with a slipstream, but runs out of straightaway down Conrad. Now he's going to get another chance if he gets a decent exit out of Hell Corner. That first left-hander, 90 degrees. It seems so simple on paper. And look at the defense. Tixier is not playing around. He is not going to give any quarter.
He's not confident, and you can show he's not confident because we are now on that white flag lap. There's Barney the flag man, top right of screen, top left of screen there, waving it about, trying to give as much as he can, as these drivers give as much as they can. They've got a lot in front of them right now. They've got to get past Andre Juteau. They've got to get past Miro Hrajki, who's driving with a very crabways car. But now you start to see up the hill. I thought about it, but now they've got the traffic in front, which completely ends any hope of a chance into turn 2. And because of how much Trengarade understeers through, having to change his line, suddenly he's got to do all the work on the mountain again, Joe.
Yeah, they were very lucky having to go around the outside with that lap traffic through Griffin's Bend. And as they continue to cut back, Rasky still in front of them. And now this is going to be much more difficult. Oh, great job. Miro doing a good job of staying out of the way as we watched Bill Tyler in a fight.
Yeah, he was trying to get through there on Ryan Walker. Didn't quite manage it there in towards turn 2. So once again, Bill Tyler is really ratcheting it up. But everywhere you look, there is pressure because down the mountain, Tixier and Trengarade go for third. A gap of 4.7 seconds for Topi Courtiniemi over Jordan Gronkowski. But for the moment, I think Trengarade's given himself a chance.
Ooh, let's stick with this for a little bit longer. We've got some time before Topi gets to the finish line here. He is still comfortably leading. And there's the slipstream and weaving back and forth. Seb does not want to give this one up. Coming up to the braking soon. They're going to go side by side. Who is willing to give way? Who is not willing to give way as they break into the corner off the track? Maybe, just a little bit of a touch. And ghost contact as we got to go to Topi Courtiniemi, who is going to take the win, crossing the line as the first race of the season goes to the Finn. Gronkowski in second, and third will wind up in the hands of Seb.
Well, you knew that two drivers were always going to push for it every stage of the way. Tixier trying to throw the block pass in, just about managed it. A little bit of contact off of the exit was never going to be great, but that is what Lotus 49 Racing is all about. You push to a limit, you push to a level, and you ask yourself, what is the absolute limit of grip and brakes and determination and sweat and passion that you can find? And that was all about how do you put it down on the brakes. Trengarade thinks he has this one won by the time he gets himself alongside, but the moment he hits the brakes slightly later, the one thing he hasn't allowed for is number 9 just lifting off a little bit later and sliding it down the inside.
Off the course, look at that. And then that second little bit of contact. I think that battle would have carried on all the way to the final corner if it hadn't been for the little bit of netcode that erupted there. But that's going to wrap up the race, but not our show. We have the official results as well as driver interviews coming your way in just a moment. Welcome back to Mount Panorama Circuit. We're going to watch the drivers have a bit of fun as this is a bit of a tradition in the Lotus 49s to do the jump, as they call it, over the chase. A special little thing that iRacing left in because they know so many drivers love to do this just after the race is over. And not all of them made it, unfortunately, as Ryan Walker unfortunately fell a little bit short. Sanchez actually made it over the bridge with an interesting one. But let's go through the results in the meantime as Topi Kortaniemi takes his first win of the season, 3 of them last time, even though he wasn't really in the hunt for the championship. And Jordan Gronkowski, newcomer, coming in, starting on pole, finishing second, but definitely one to watch out for, I think. Sebastian Tixier will finish in third. Ove Traingray just shy of the podium, finishing where he started. Jim Shedlick, somehow, with a massive wreck up the hill, still came home in fifth, and a gain of where he started, too. Sanchez was sixth as Ryan Walker finished better than he flew over the jump with a 7th place. Bill Tyler was 8th, Jorge Nieva 9th, and Richard Yallen wound up 10th.
Moving on back then to 11th through 20th, just the 16 finishers then on the leading lap as Bruce Nelson was able to finish ahead of Emmanuel Pereira, exactly a minute off of the lead. Matthew Maudsley finishes 13th ahead of Matt Wright, who spun on lap 1, still managed to get himself 14th place. That was ahead of Dave Cohen and Marco Antonio Lopez in 16th. A lap down was Eugenio Massa and Robert Reynolds, and then you start finding drivers who are in 2 laps down or retirement territory, the likes of Gary Quellin and Michael Grissinger round out 20.
21st went to Miro Hraski. Andrew Eng was 22nd, 5 laps down. These are the drivers that did see the checkered flag, but took immense repairs. 23rd to Harvey with Plumley, and 24th, Damian Rickley, P25, and then from there on down, it's pretty much all DNFs. A massive amount of attrition at today's race. We've got the 3rd place finisher ready to talk to us. Oh, actually, no, before we get to him, looks like Topi, our winner, has joined us. So let's chat with the number 2 car instead. Topi Kortaniemi, a victory here today, picking up where you left off last season. But last time you didn't attend all the races. You had to kind of step away for a little bit. Is this one where you're going to kick things off and say, I am coming back for a championship this time?
We'll see what happens. I'm going to miss the next race anyway, but after that, I'm probably going to do the rest of the season. So we'll see what happens, because I've heard Robbie's coming back and Jordan is fast. So I think we're going to have a good battle up front.
Yeah, it's not going to be shy of competition. Togo said that he's going to have university to deal with, so he might be missing much of the season, not expecting him to be in the hunt for the points necessarily, but still obviously showing up to challenge everyone. What is your take on racing with Jordan there? I think this is the first time I can remember seeing him out on the track, and boy, he was giving everybody a run for their money.
Yeah, definitely. We had hard racing, but for me it was fair racing. So just like with the serious veterans here, so I think it's going to be a good season. It was good racing with.
This was quite the tough one to start things off with, but we head to a bit of a different track, much shorter, with Donington. In fact, I think it's the national layout for that one. How do you feel about that? Because it doesn't show up as much on the schedule.
Yeah, I think it's a good track for the car, but unfortunately, I'm going to have to miss the next race. But fortunately, we had the drop weeks.
Yes, you did mention that. Apologies on that. As who do you want to thank for today's win, going from the front row to victory?
I don't know. Always best regards to Mick. I've heard he's made it to France and his trip is 100% on, so good luck to him.
Yep, for those that aren't aware, Mick Claridge is biking around the world. We'll be following that on the channel as well, as that was our winner, Topi Kortaniemi. And then up next, Jake has caught up with 3rd place finisher Sebastian Tixier.
Sebastian, it's the sort of race where it looked like the top 3 or 4 drivers had that ability to break away early, but always around a track like today, and your understanding of this very, very well with the work you've done in the AusNZ community. How important was it today just to find a finish first and foremost?
Well, this season I decided to race with like more realistic as possible, so I shift no help, and also drive like try to drive like in Grand Prix Legend, so I don't have relative, I don't have virtual mirror, so I had absolutely no idea of what was happening around me, and just like last lap I found out I was third. And so I would like to apologize to Ove, because in the straight I was not really sure where he was, so I was serving left and right. I hope I didn't push him.
Well, it was an incredible battle towards the end, and let's just talk about that fight for third and how crucial it is. You just get so much of a run down these long straights, and you're pretty much on the edge through every single corner around this wonderful, wonderful track. Just how important was it just to be in the right position at the right time, knowing that last lap and knowing how crucial that break into the chase was going to be?
I saw that Ove at some moments in breaking the chase, losing the rear a little bit. And actually I had a really special race setup, gear-wise, especially for the straight. Actually, I'm a software engineer, and I had a program to calculate the gear automatically compared to what speed we want, and the program gave me a very weird setup. I tried it, and in the straight it worked well, so I had a good top spin. So my strategy was to try to always stay on the left, so I can be faster and brake inside, and it worked. I think one time Ove went too deep and in the grass, and last lap I actually, like I said, I don't have virtual mirror, so I had no idea. I just steered on the left, on the right. I got out of the chase, and I was like, okay, well, that's nice.
Well, you had a really nice battle. You picked up a podium for it, but the challenge, I guess, is next week in Donington Park. So how do you go from a track which is very narrow street circuit style like this one to a track which is probably as open as expansive if you go off, that you could probably run into a field of sheep, grab something out there to eat, and then come back and still be on the track?
Usually I prefer track with like a flow, like a Spa or Nürburgring GP. I was fast there. So Donington, I think it will be good for me, and I like the track. I don't know if it's the long layout or the short layout. I hope it's a long one. But yeah, it's a track I really like, and it's like a classic British track, so can't wait to go there.
Well, before we let you go here, Sebastian, shout out sponsors, anyone you'd like to thank?
Well, I want to thank the Lotus 49 community, great community, and good luck to Nick in his bicycle ride. And thanks for GSRC for the broadcast, always nice to rewatch that.
Well, no worries at all there. Sebastian Tixier joining us and getting third position overall in what was a very heavily attritional race, Joe.
Absolutely, and that's going to take us to the wrap-up for the show itself, with a big thank you to our sponsor once again, the Majors Garage. We got a link in the description below, and if you use our discount code MajorsGSRC, you'll get 10% off. Also, thanks to the Lotus 49 community for bringing us back for another season of coverage, and thank you goes to the companies that provide the software and hardware for our broadcast listed here. Thank you to June Lalonde, who provides our wonderful music. Check out her Bandcamp for more great work. And to the team today, Jake, Rob, and Dougie. You can find more info about GSRC at globalsimracingchannel.com or through our social media. And make sure and check out our merchandise store, gsrc.storenv.com. There's a link in the description below. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel so you don't miss a moment. The next one, as we mentioned, is Donington Park, Saturday, March 26th at 8:30 a.m. Eastern, 9:30 a.m. Eastern, actually. Time change, Joe. We also have upcoming races for other series listed on the screen, so check those out. Mark them down on your calendar, including in a couple hours, the Camel GT Series heads to Road Atlanta at 1 p.m. Eastern. Until next time, race clean, race hard. We'll see you on the track.